So Brad, thanks so much for coming all the way down here on a Sunday. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You came from Kamloops today?
Yeah. I was gigging last night for a Christmas party.
Nice.
Time of the season.
How are the roads?
Fine.
Dry,
Great.
clear.
Plus, I'm so used to driving. I drive.
Yeah.
I drive all the time, 7 days a week.
I bet you've seen some pretty crazy snowstorms.
We have. We've been through some, and we managed to make it to the gig. Either way, blizzards right across, roads closed. You know, the warning bars across the road. Oh, we're going anyway. Right? And then we realize,
The show must go on.
That's right, yeah.
So you've been in Kelowna for 30 years.
Yeah, coming up will be 30 years. Yeah, moved here from Prince George, but raised in Kamloops, area. Yeah, but
so what's the story? How did you end up here? Was it your parents or?
Yeah, I was raised at Sun Peaks now. It used to be called Todd Mountain. I went to school in Kamloops, elementary school in Rayleigh, and then junior high. And then, of course, I was a bit of a troublemaker, and I got, junior high, made it through there, and then I got shipped up to Prince George. My dad lived up there, but my mom lives in Kamloops, and then, of course, from there, got myself into trouble there too.
Like what kind of trouble?
Just
talk about? Or?
Well, I ended up moving here because my dad moved back down to the Kelowna area himself.
Yeah.
And I was just living with some buddies, and that's when I started playing music. Was up in kind of Kamloops, and then shipped off to Prince George area, and I came back to Kelowna, where my dad was running a festival here out at 8 Mile Ranch. Mm-hmm. And he asked the band from Prince George to come and do a set down here. So
your dad was into music?
He was into music, and he put on a lot of events for the Rotary. No, it was the ones at Valentine's with the hearts, to pin on hearts. It was so long ago.
Oh.
The Variety Club.
Oh.
That's what it was, yes.
Yeah.
So he put those on, and he put on events.
Right.
And he was quite good at it, and I think that's probably where I kind of developed some of that event organizing stuff and fundraising over the years. But he's also was a bit of an acoustic player. My dad was, or my uncle was an acoustic guitar player, and I remember seeing him when I was in my early teens. And I thought, he's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started from just leaving Kamloops. A buddy of mine taught me guitar. I was probably 16, 17 years old. And we were out at a campground somewhere, and he was learning to play acoustic, but he needed somebody to play along with him. And so we're out at this beach, camping on the beach at the lake, and he says, you grab this guitar. You got me one. Brought an extra one, taught me 3 chords, and it was an April Wine tune, it's a Red and Yellow Seasons, or Seasons Changing, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And it's 3 chords, and I learned them really fast, and started playing them. Next thing you know, he was singing, people started gathering around, and what I really noticed was that there was girls gathering around and and staring at us, so I went, okay, that's what I want to do from that point.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Prince George, and joined up with my dad invited me out to a tiny little pub, and said, come down here. I just turned 19. I was working at Mohawk, and
really? What color?
What's that?
What color was it?
Was what?
Oh, you said you were working at Mohawk.
Mohawk, the gas station.
Oh, you were working at Mohawk.
At a gas station. I was about to be promoted to assistant manager,
Right.
So from that, he just said, I just turned 19, and he said, come down here. There's a talent thing if you want to bring your guitar down. I barely played. I only knew 3 songs. Get to this place, and don't know anything about it. Played the 3 songs. The band offered me a job.
Wow.
I went, well, I got a job. So they told me, how much do you make there? And I said, well, I work for, 2 weeks. I make, $300 every 2 weeks. And they said, well, you're going to make that in the weekend.
Wow.
So I went, okay, and on the road we went. So at 19 years old, brought the one band down to my dad's event, and from there I liked the area. Mm-hmm. So moved down in, it was 89, spring of 89, and stayed with my dad for a while there. Got to know some local musicians around here, mm-hmm. and but was still really new, and it was kind of tough to kind of get to know a lot of people kind of in the area. Everybody sort of had their bands and their things going on.
Yeah.
So I met up with this guy, and he was playing, doing a duo, and he said, he knew my dad, and he said, you want to play bass guitar for this duo thing? And I said, sure. The more I can play, the better. Get to know some people.
Did you already know bass guitar at that point?
No. It was one thing that I had to learn. That band that I won in the contest was actually the one that I played guitar in, and they said, you know how to play bass guitar? And that's where I started playing bass guitar, was in that band.
Yeah.
But they almost fired me the first gig, because I taught myself by ear. Right. And my buddy just told me some chords, but I didn't know what they were.
Right.
So we get out to the first gig with this band that I won this contest with. The first gig was Hinton, right? And we got fines on the way out there as well.
Really?
We
For what?
have a couple of beers along the way. I'm just new. I don't know. I'm just green, right? Anyway, so we got a few fines, and then the first night we played out there. They said, yeah, it's just real easy, just G, C, and D. And I went, oh, what is that? Wait. Slow down. And they're looking at me, slow down. So they didn't talk to me the first night. They were so mad, almost fired me. And but I knew that from that point, just face your guitar towards me, because I know guitar chords, and I'll just play the top note.
Yeah.
And I followed along, and that's where I really learned how to follow along, which was real helpful, years down the road.
So did you give up the bass?
No, I still play it to this day. That was my main instrument. Yeah. Oh. I played from that point. And that was, I guess it was 19 then.
Do you prefer it?
I love playing bass guitar. Yeah. I really love it. And
do you sing?
I do. Yeah.
Are you the lead vocalist?
Yeah, one of them in one of the bands. The one band is Linus. Anyway, way back in '89, I met Tim. I was go back to that year when I moved here, and I met this guy through the first guy that I met here.
Yeah.
All got together and realized the guy that I met when I moved to Kelowna. We did this gig at the Packin' House pub, and there was 5 of us. None of us knew each other. Mm-hmm. Showed up at this gig for a gig. I don't know anybody.
Where's the Packing House?
Packin' House pub is in Kelowna, BC here, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture it.
In the Rutland.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's right on Highway 33.
No, that's that's up towards Sexsmith Road.
Okay,
that way.
I know. I've been there twice. Yeah.
So we got
still there.
It's still there. I'm playing there for New Year's, actually. But anyway, so these 5 guys, and I realized that the one guitar player, I'm thinking, he's pretty good. Who is that guy? And I realized that I met him years ago when my dad invited me down to play his event when I was living in Prince George, brought the band down to his 8 Mile Ranch gig, and realized he was the guy doing sound for my dad's event.
Right.
And he's a guitar player. We're looking at him, he's going, hey, you're pretty good. Hey, you're pretty good. You want to start something? And that's what started the Young'uns band in 1989.
Wow. And that band is still going.
30 years. Yeah,
coming up on 30.
30 years. 50 weeks a year, 30 years, yeah.
Amazing. So what's the difference in style between Linus and the Young'uns?
Well, Tim and I, when we started, he just had a baby. His daughter, Savannah, was just born. She was, and he just wanted to work. So we sat down in his garage and we said, okay, what do we got to do? He just wants to work. He's got a daughter to support now. And so we just learned as many songs that people wanted to hear as possible. Mm-hmm. We learned... and he grew up, his influence were, Van Halen, Yes, Rush, that type of stuff. And next thing you know, he's playing, Vince Gill stuff and John Cougar stuff. And it was quite a change for him, but it's inspired him to branch out a bit too. Mm-hmm. And I already played in a country band up in Prince George, a classic rock band, a heavy metal band as well, went on the road with, and played Judas Priest and Dokken and all these heavy bands. And so... it was a really good duo with a vast amount of influences. So we just took that, and for the first year and a half, we were a duo. And then a friend of ours, Greg Barker, said, "Hey, I want to play. I'm going to do the first little bit here, play the gig for free." Mm-hmm. So he came out and realized he's a solid drummer and he sings harmonies. So now all of a sudden we have three vocals, and that's kind of where it started. And yeah, so we just had a mission. Really, we had a mission that we want to work. Mm-hmm. So that's what. Is it
the same guys in both bands, or there's some overlap? Like you're in both.
I'm in both. No. So anyway, the Young'uns is basically a dance, play all the kind of the hits, pop, country, classic rock, a big variety of stuff. And that's Tim Reardon, which is my partner for the last 30 years. And we've gone through, we're on, there's 7 drummers. And the latest drummer we have now is Steve Mannix.
And why so many drummers? Do they get burnt out or?
Yeah, some have. Yeah, we've had Greg Barker. He got a little burnt out. It's usually about a 4-year period the drummers last. And then we've had Brian Collis, same thing, about 3 or 4 years. And then we had Mike Usick, and it was the same thing. He was maybe just over 4 years. And all just fantastic drummers, and really brought a different color to the band each and every time.
Yeah.
But we always had a vision. This is what we're playing. This is kind of what we're doing, and this is where we're going. And then we went from there to James Long, and he was just a fantastic vocalist as well. And he actually passed away right after one of our gigs. He was about 4
after a gig.
Yeah, actually, we were playing at Big White, and he was just starting to feel a little funny, and he had a little bit of heart issues before that, and played the one night, and then he realized the next day that he had 4 arteries were pretty blocked. So, and unfortunately, he didn't make it through the surgeries, but just a fantastic addition to the band and really good vocalist. And from there, we had a drummer that we hosted a jam session at Rose's for 10 years every Sunday. And from that, we met a drummer called Don Mutter, and his band used to come out and jam all the time. And they had 3 songs, and they just played every single part of the instrument as loud and as fast as they possibly can play to kind of showcase.
Right.
And it kind of was like, okay. So we thought, well, who are we going to get to replace kind of James at this moment? Because it was Friday night he had the heart attack. Saturday, we needed to find a place to play the next night. So Tim and I were really in a bit of shock. He was still going into the operation, so we were hoping that he was going to be okay. And so we were trying to find somebody. Well, what about that Don guy? And because of how busy he was all the time, we discussed it. Well, if we just tell him to we're already stressed out, play meat and potato stuff, because that's what James did, and he was great. And we mentioned it to Don, and Don showed up at the gig on the Saturday night, and we were, could tell we were a little frazzled. And we were playing Rolling Stone stuff, Beast of Burden. It doesn't need any fancy stuff. It just needs to play it. And we were worried about Don because he was so busy. And he got up there and he nailed it. Not only did he nail it, but he played it so well. And then all of a sudden we started hearing these little harmony vocals real quietly in the background. We're going, and it took a huge relief off of Tim and I. We were like, okay, we're stressed right out. So from that, James passed away a few days later that same week. And Don did such a good job that we said, if you're interested, and Don was thrilled to take the position. He lasted 7 years.
Yeah. So where was his vocals a little bit quiet at the start because he was a little bit shy? What do you think that was?
Yeah, he didn't want to. I think he just didn't want to. He didn't really do a lot of singing, and we were just welcoming. If you've got it and you can do it, then do it. So he was just quietly, and we didn't really have it too loud because we weren't sure what to expect.
Right.
But we could hear it briefly. We could hear these little harmonies coming up, and it was pretty high. And James could sing the Boston stuff like way up there. And all of a sudden this guy's, so we were just like, cool. It kind of relieved us a bit and inspired us that, okay. And it was when we talked to Don about it, he just said he would be honored, thrilled to join the band because we were booked solid. And it meant that the guy was going to be, he was also a new father as well.
Yeah.
And so was I at that point. And we all wanted to work. And so he was pretty excited about it. So we were all happy. And from then, the band just went boom and just really went to another level with adding Don to because we realized that, man, that guy could sing.
He could really sing.
Oh, my God. Yeah, not only that, but it made the 3 of us, these harmonies that we were pulling off, like we were doing Kansas, Carry On Wayward Son, as a 3-piece. And it was amazing what we could actually accomplish with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And old stick stuff, Renegade. And all of a sudden we were at a whole different level.
Yeah.
And then I ended up leaving. I sort of was fiddling around with another guitar player, a friend of mine, Mike Jervis, who played in a band called Who's on Bass for years. They did a CD release when I first moved here, and they had a CD release for their very first, very popular band. And they did a CD release of their first album and needed a bass player. The band's called Who's on Bass. So I was like, I'll play. And really, really honored to actually make the spot. And I met Mike Jervis, and it was Jim Legoo and Patty Jervis, and all extremely talented. And so to be amongst that crew, I was really thrilled, honored to be a part of that. But I got to know Mike, and he wasn't... he was doing some freelancing, and I just approached him, and him and I always got along so well. And I said, hey, do you want to kind of look at this? And so we started the band Linus.
Is the sound pretty similar?
It's a little bit different. It's definitely different. It's got some of the same aspects. I mean, with me singing. Yeah. But Mike, he is well known as one of the greatest guitar players in the area. Like, he is phenomenal, and he's got such a vast song selection that he's learned over the years. He's been playing for longer than I have, and in all sorts of bands, the Cruzeros and Jim Legoo's band, and Who's on Bass, and all sorts of stuff. And so he said, "Yeah, let's get together." He's working full time and doesn't want to work really, go crazy. But when we started the band, we had a mission. We played a lot of kind of funky, bluesy, reggae, classic rock, a lot of country stuff, and really, really enjoyed playing together. We brought the drummer on, Brandon Photo, and he's just a young kid. Like, now he's 33. We started that band 7 years ago. And but the old school veteran experience this kid had was unbelievable. And how he played was solid, snappy, and he loved all types of music, because he started playing drums when I think he was 13 or 14 with his dad in the bars, and making pretty good money at that age. But his dad was so adamant about, lay it down. Don't be doing anything fancy. I need you to be the groove. You're the pocket. We're following to you. Don't be pulling any kind of fancy smanchy stuff. I want you to lay it down. From that, he's become one of the most solid, well-rounded drummers around the area. Like, he is. And he'll play. He'll request some old Johnny Cash tune, and he loves it.
Nice. That's great.
George Jones stuff. Like, I'm like, how old are you? Like, how do you know this stuff?
George Jones. Yeah. So you're a bassist. Who are some of your favorite bassists that people might recognize from different bands, like historically? Well,
Jaco Pastorius was one of the ones that I discovered through one of our drummers, Mike Usick, and he was a drummer in the Young'uns.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just that guy was a real bassist. Like, he spent 8 hours a day, played 2 gigs a day. He'd play a full force, 4 hours at some gig, and then he'd go at night and he'd play another gig somewhere else in these dirty bars. He just played all the time whenever he could. And just his style was really cool. And then I was influenced by another one, Victor Wooten. And that's where I learned how to kind of pop and slap and he was a real influence, because he really taught there's no bad way to play anything. There's no wrong notes. They're all just leading notes to wherever you need to be to find, the color of music, right?
Right.
And I actually had a chance to meet him. He was in town with Wentworth Music, had a seminar going on. They asked me to come and, introduce him, and I was nervous. But he was the nicest guy that you've ever met. And anyway, he taught me how to do a little bit of popping and snapping stuff. And then Geddy Lee from Rush, of course, was one of the influences. I was never really a big fan in high school. The tone of his voice was one of those things where I just not quite.
His tone, but the bass, though.
But the bass guitar, when I started listening to how he was singing and playing that stuff at the same time, there's a lot of respect for, and being Canadian, it was just, really dug into listening to what he was doing. And so those were I think those were my main three bassists that I really got a lot of influences out of.
Has your style evolved and changed much over the 30 years?
I think it has, confidence-wise, because you're playing so much. But it's the same, unless we're learning new songs and finding new influences along the way. Sometimes you can get a little stale and you're playing the same old stuff, the same over and over, the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're pretty lucky that we're pretty dynamic in both the bands. We can change things up on an instant in a matter of seconds by looks, by body language, go, stop, bring it down, pick it up, double time, keep it going, that kind of stuff. And that makes it fun. But as far as taking the bass guitar home and working on the craft, I don't really do it a lot. I'm so busy, and I play every weekend. So when I go home, I've got a online publication, and which is based around music and film stuff too. Yeah. But I don't really play a lot when I'm at home. So I play my stuff. I learn new things by learning new cover tunes. I don't do a lot of writing. We did one album. The Youngest did one album back in 2000, and did a little bit of writing with my acoustic guitar. But I don't really go beyond that because I play every single weekend. It's like what was I thinking? The example of for me anyway, it was like somebody who cleans houses for a living for everybody else's house, and then you go home and their house is a mess, right? They don't really spend a lot of time, things like that. So
you don't need much rehearsal after 30 years of playing live.
No, we've a lot of times in both bands we've said, hey, learn these 3 songs, show up on Friday, ready, set, go, learn your parts.
Right.
And technology.
Can you pick up pretty quick, like a new song?
Yeah. Unless it's something that's requires, even with harmonies. I mean, we each know, okay, I'm going to sing this one, and with technology, you just grab it on. It's bad habit is grab my iPad, get the lyrics, because it takes forever to remember them.
Right.
When we old school, we used to rewind the tape.
Yeah.
Write it down, rerun it again with your finger or a pen, rewind the tape, put it back in, learn your parts, and fast forward or play it again, and write the lyrics down. Mm-hmm. And technology now is fantastic that we can actually pull off a song in a matter of seconds. Somebody says, play this, can you play this song? We can actually wing it. Grab the lyric quickly. I think it's in this key. I sort of know it. I've heard it a million times. Ready? You want to try it? And we would just go with the flow. Not always perfect, but it's amazing what you can do with technology. But it does have a little bit of a downside with always relying on that iPad now.
Yeah, right. So like you'll have the iPad on stage for the lyrics?
Yeah.
So are you traveling much with the bands, or is it mostly local now?
Local, really, at Thompson, Okanagan. We've managed to stay close to the area, driving distance home for a lot of years, decades, because you look at a lot of bands from Vancouver, they don't travel here because there's not a lot of money. I mean, not like the old days. We would do 6 nights a week.
Right.
We would have pack up Sunday, travel Sunday, Monday, sometimes playing Monday night, play all week long. We don't have that anymore, right? There's not as many live bars around, so it's all Friday, Saturday. So it's not worth it for bands from Vancouver to come up here, really.
Yeah, to do one, maybe 2 shows.
So it's not worth it for us to actually go to Vancouver, drive all that way to do 2 nights. And for venues, too, it's tough for venues because, when you're forking out the kind of money, you really need to have that back. And when you're paying for 6-7 nights of a band, it doesn't make sense anymore. It is tough, yeah.
So, but in the old days when you used to travel, is it like wild and crazy?
Yeah.
Like we hear the stories of?
Yeah.
Is there a story, PG-13, that you could share with us? Something a little bit crazy?
Oh, we've got lots of them. We've traveled farther out when we did those 6-nighters outside of the Okanagan, and even when I was in Prince George, we traveled. I think one of the gigs was one of the bands was called Mickey Rat, and it was the heavy metal band, and we were living in Prince George, and we went from our first gig from Prince George to Sparwood.
Yeah,
I mean that is southeastern part of BC.
Right.
That's our first gig, right? In a school bus.
Wow. And
there was sound man, we've got a light man, we've got 5 band members, and we're on the road, and away we go, and we drive all the way there, and for our first gig, and we realized that the sound man was partially tone deaf. Right. And I guess it's not really a PG type of a story, but had firecrackers thrown at us, cue balls thrown at us, fired the second night to drive all the way.
Because the crowd
did not
revolted.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was in a pub, like a country bar, and we're playing Judas Priest and Dokken.
Yeah.
Like with the agent, they
threw cue balls at you.
Yeah.
Did anybody get hit?
No, just to hit the kick drum.
They were too drunk to hit you.
Yeah, so the first night we grabbed a 2-4 pack of beer and went upstairs and got made it through that night. The second night, the boss just said, I just don't think this is going to work out for the weekend. So we packed up our stuff, and the next gig was Smithers.
Yeah.
So from the southern part of BC past Prince George up north, and we had to siphon gas all the way. So we snuck in people's backyards, siphoned gas out of the vehicles. We got fired. We had no money, right? Wow. So we were sneaking out, and then we dropped the sound man off along the way.
Siphoning gas is not fun, and you get some in your mouth, right?
4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, somebody's backyard siphoning their gas, trying to get back home to the next gig. So
crazy.
And then we had parties. We played a couple of parties. There was one in what the heck was it called? Bella Coola, Williams Lake, and then go west,
right,
into the depths. Like the degrees of the road was 18 degrees, so that is extremely steep. Blizzard with a 54 passenger bus to the same type of a venue. We're a metal band and we're playing in this little tiny town in this pub, and it was awful. And got into a big fight with some of the locals. Had our school bus windows broken, throwing beer bottles at us as we're bailing to try to get out.
Wow, that's not very hospitable. You travel all this way, and you think.
But that's agents. Back then they just needed to make their money, and the places needed. They weren't specific on what we play.
Yeah.
So they were just putting us in wrong places.
Yeah. So do you guys do your own agency now, or do you have a manager that?
No, we do all our own. We're pretty lucky. We don't. We own all our own PA system, all our own lighting. We've actually grown up.
Yeah, right.
Got a little smarter as we got a little older, and so we all contribute to the sound system, the lighting, the microphones, all that kind of stuff. And Tim and I mainly booked the band, the Young'uns, for since day one. We did had a couple of agents book us, but it wasn't really necessary. Got our foot in the door with a couple of places, and then we just took it from there. Linus, we've got decades of experience in all the musicians, and so we just say, here's the band. It was tough at first for Linus because nobody knew who it was.
Yeah.
So we just sort of had to put ourselves out there. Some of the local venues that knew of ourselves personally with other bands. So we just book it, and it's still, it seems like even in the last couple of years, it's getting a little bit tougher to stay book solid. You really have to work a lot harder. When before it was they were calling us and we were saying no, we're full.
So it's changed. I think a lot of people are kind of glued to their devices and they're not going out as much.
Yeah, a lot of rules have changed. Yeah, not liquor laws have changed, which is. For some reasons it's a good thing, keeping everybody safe, right? Drinking and driving laws is really prominent. The smoking, no smoking stuff was really great for us.
It was good for you.
Oh, well, I mean, good for our health,
right? In
general, right? Used to smoke and drink and party, and it was all fine when you were all, but after a while, when you start having kids, you start things change.
Yeah.
How you look at your own health, and you got to make sure that you're healthy, you're going to be around for your kids, right?
Yeah.
Changes everything. So when my son back in 96, when he was born, it was like I was hit by a truck.
Wow.
And right then I used to smoke and drink and party my ass off. And when he was born, it just hit me like a truck, and I went, it's all done. Yeah. I quit everything. And just to focus on making sure I keep a roof over his head and keeping my health up.
Yeah.
And so.
How has the Kelowna music scene changed? Besides, it's less people going out, but are there any venues that used to exist that you just loved and you wish were still around, but they got bulldozed? Is there anything?
Oh, there's a few for sure. I mean,
because I've been in Kelowna for 7 years, so I've heard stories, and Jimmy had some great stories, but tell us about a venue that got erased.
Well, there was a couple. And yeah, Jim was, he was part of both of them. It was, what was it called? God, it was so long ago. Right downtown where, Kelly Oza's right now used to be called Sergeant O'Flaherty's, I think it was. And man, it was such a great, cozy venue, and we had some pretty amazing artists come through. Like we played there, and we had I think it was Tom Cochran that was on the road, and he had I think it was a keyboard player, and then the bassist from Kim Mitchell showed up because he was doing the gigs with them, and we showed up, and everybody could eat there, sit around, be cozy.
Yeah.
And these guys, they got up and they would jam and blow everybody's mind right downtown. And that was gone, but that for every band that showed up there, it had a vibe that you wanted to be there. You knew that this was going to be a great experience for the bands as well as the patrons that were coming in there. So it was always busy, and it was just unique. Really, really cool. So that was one that's gone now. And of course, Angie's was really significant with Jim's band, who's on bass. A bunch of us had played there over the years as
Where
well.
was that?
That's at the Capri Hotel where it is now.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where Jim's band, who's on bass, was house band there and they built up a clientele that was just historic. Like they had not only a following for just the band themselves, but their original stuff was everybody loved. Local radio stations were back in the Lizard. Actually, they're Power 104 now, but the Lizard back then was big supporters of theirs. So they really made a footprint in that venue itself. And then that's gone now, and now it's what is it now? It's a liquor store. I think just a liquor store. Turned the whole place into a liquor store. So
at the back there.
Yeah. So pretty significant. And in Vernon, actually, the only place that we still play at, which is pretty impressive, is the Green Pub. Back when it used to be called Sneakers, and that was in '89 when Tim and I from the Young'uns, we played there as a duo back then, and we're still playing there today.
Right.
But it's got a hotel attached to it, right? So liquor store, hotel, restaurant, all attached to that. So it seems to be the reason why it stayed.
Yeah.
But some of the other venues were they've had some food, but it's been tough. Yeah, Kamloops, another place that's been pretty significant. There was a place in Kamloops called. That was a lot of fun. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's gone now, but it was a great venue. Getting a lot of people. But Rose's pub was huge for us because Tim and I, from the Vernon area, Lumbee area, we had trying to get into the Kelowna area. The music scene was really difficult.
Really?
It took us probably 10 years to actually be recognized as somebody that I'm not sure what it was, but it was tough for us to get in. But Rose's pub we met her up at Big White, Rose and her sons, and played at Rose's on the Ridge way back in the day for the Christmas party. And from that, they got the bar down at the Grand and played a few gigs, and then they mentioned about a house gig. So we played there for 10 years. Every Sunday, and consistently it was the busiest night of the week throughout the year was a Sunday night jam. And we were so lucky to play with I got to jam with James Brown's band just before he passed away. So basically the whole band except for James Brown and the bass player kind of showed up at Rose's, and these guys were 7 feet tall dudes, right? And they were coming in and they said, hey, you want to jam? And I'm going, yeah. And I got to jam with the bands like that. Rod Stewart's band, kicked Joan Jett's band off the stage one year because they were just out of control, and took Tim's brand new Strat and hit it on the drum cymbals.
Oh, geez.
While I was sitting there talking to a buddy, I just went up there. I just lost the plot on the guitar player. I said, I didn't do anything. And I said, get off. And but it was a neat experience being able to be part of a lot of hockey players. We got a lot of NHL players that come through and got up and jammed with us. And then that's gone now as of this year.
Yeah.
And 25 years really was an epic run for a venue like that. Just so much fun.
Yeah. So what do you listen to as far as music when you're driving?
These
days?
Sometimes talk shows.
Yeah, right.
Because or nothing, because that's what my life has been, is really, and I love music. Unless it, actually, no, I can tell you when I do have longer road trips, I'll plug in Derek Trucks and live. It's a double disc live CD, and the guy is just incredible.
What kind of music is that?
It's blues.
Derek Trucks.
Yeah, Derek Trucks. Yeah, and he's just incredible groove, and it kind of keeps you. Long songs, jams, and dynamic, and wicked solos and groove. It just kind of keeps you bopping along for those 2 hour, anything beyond 2 hours, right?
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm a big fan of Chris Stapleton as well. He's a country guy, but he's got a blues feel to him and just a killer voice. And Kings of Leon, I'm a big fan of theirs. I really like their stuff. But I don't really listen to it a lot.
Right.
I have, I've got my publishing company I have a guy that does my reviews, so he listens to a lot of music.
Okay.
And he
writes a column. And
he writes the reviews, music reviews.
So tell us about Gonzo. That's my
that's my day job. And I've been running, basically, I used to be in print to Gonzo magazine about 10 years ago.
So it's totally online now.
It's totally online.
Print.
Yeah, no more print. Yeah, but we've done some incredible interviews, and it's music, film, culture, entertainment, sports now, technology. But we've done interviews with Steven Spielberg, Angelina Jolie, Howard Stern, Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. We just interviewed Jason Bateman, Julia Roberts. We've interviewed Jackie Chan. Just an endless amount of pretty cool stuff. And we get access. I have 25 writers that do write articles anywhere from local music, film, culture, sports, technology to major stuff, and they're spread out all over the place. So one of my writers that has access to all the film industry interviews is in LA, but most of everybody else is from around kind of the BC area, and from that we also have a marketing side of it as well. So I have a graphic design, website design department as well. So we do everything from any kind of online marketing campaign. So it's all online now. And and we're building. The last couple of years, we've been working really hard on building how to incorporate supporting local businesses in all areas, whether it's writing a featured article about them or helping support their events. Musicians too. We're actually building right now. We got in our events calendar, people can submit their events. Say a band's coming through town, and we can actually sell their tickets on their event page, but we can also sell their merch, their shirts and their CDs right off that same page. So it's like a Ticketmaster Select Your Tickets, but with a little bit of a bonus. And it's another way that we can support musicians and events and fundraisers and things like that.
Very cool. So how did you get so many great interview people? Because I'm asking for selfish reasons now, right?
Yeah.
Trying to expand this show. Was it your journalists, like your the people that write the columns that have these connections? Like how do you get someone like that?
Well, it is mainly part of the writers' connections, because that's what they do. John, the Rock Doctor, he's been writing reviews for years for me, 10 years for me, and but we had something to give them as well. Fred Topples out of California, and he writes for a couple other larger publications. He'll just give me a list of who's coming through town,
right? Because
he'll get the list from these major publications, but they won't approve these interviews unless you have something that's significant. So where is it going? Well, they're going to say, well, it's going to be go to Gonzo magazine, which back then was printing 15,000 copies of a magazine. They're going, we're all okay. We're good with that.
Right.
That's fairly, it's not the largest, but it's 15,000 magazines that are going to, monthly magazines that are, they're going to support whatever they've got going on. So that was the start of building the foundation for credibility.
Yes.
We've got a great writer that writes for other great publications, but we also have this this company that prints out 15,000 magazines. So we got included to the Junos, not this last time, but the time before, because we were in print, got full access to the Junos when it was here. in Vancouver. The writer, John the Rock Darker, he actually worked for New Cap Radio, which is massive on radio stations across Canada. And he worked for the radio station. So he had access to a lot of stuff. Plus he was writing for me. So he'd already built relationships, right?
Right.
So he still writes. We've had to, when we got out of print, we had to kind of rebuild a little bit more because now that 15,000 copies is no longer on the doctor's offices or the music shops or, wherever we're going. It's not physically in people's hands. So in order to do that, we had to build it back up again. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we're at now. We've been working for the last 2.5 years, rebuilding the online presence and where we're going to go when we kind of grow up in that area, right? Mm-hmm. And
do you think print media is dead?
No, I think that it's very difficult now. Yeah. And I still will have plans of printing a hard copy. Yeah. But monthly, never. I'll never do that again. It was so much work, so stressful. And you really think of the cost of doing that was really hard to make it pay for itself. Yeah. So I'm going to probably go to print in spring, maybe fall, see how it works out. And it's not a moneymaker. It's just an addition to what we have online for my clients, as well as supporting our articles and events that are happening in and around.
So maybe like once a year or twice a year type thing?
That's right, yeah. So, we're involved. We want to be involved in as many. We host a few events as well, too. Like I do a golf tournament, a festival. I'm a promoter as well. So I've done everything from local fundraisers, raised a couple $100,000 for local families around here to major. I booked Judas Priest and Vernon one year. I've had In Excess on the Bluff one year, Randy Travis, things like that. So events like that, we're going to be hosting ourselves. I had Honeymoon Suite right on the golf course, turned the whole Sunset Ranch into a beer gardens this year. Yeah. And a fundraiser helped a local family out as well. And so we're going to be doing a lot of events like that. So the magazine, the print issue will support not only our events, but other events in and around the community. So that's what we're doing. It's not to make money this time. And back then it was, we got to get to break even. Right. But if we do it, we have enough leeway. It's good for our clients. It's good for our content writers.
It's so expensive, so time consuming. I think, like for myself, I really crave something printed.
That's right.
Because there's almost nothing.
It was like Christmas anymore, when I got the boxes.
Yeah, I love getting a magazine. Oh, yeah. And it almost doesn't exist. Yeah. So, but economics are what they are. So. Yeah.
And you can tell by the quality, and you have your fingers crossed for anybody that still is in print. Like Okanagan Life magazine is just a significant powerhouse of a magazine in our community, and he's stuck with it and done a fantastic job. I'm really, really happy that he's still out in print because people do need to have that, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. But you can see some of the magazines that come and go. And I think Paul, he's the publisher of that magazine. I think he's in his maybe it's 30 years now coming up.
Paul, what's his last name?
Byrne.
Paul Byrne.
Yeah, just awesome guy. And he's a musician. Very good one too. And he's got his opinion about print and other media stuff, and it's just he has worked hard to keep things alive, and we're really, really, but you can tell, like even other magazines, you can see the quality, number of pages go down, the thickness of paper, because it's getting tougher and tougher. Yes. But there is something about a hard copy of a magazine. Yeah. It's just like you look at it, you feel it, you read it. Yeah.
I miss it. Yeah. I miss it for sure. So, Brad, who would you like to nominate to come on this show in the future?
Well, I've got a few people that are really, really significant, have helped me out a lot over the years. And, just to be part of, their friendship and their community support. Yeah. And there's a lot of people. It's hard to try to figure out one.
Well, you can name several. So we've had people name anywhere from 1 to 7. I had one guy, he's like, I can't give you one. And he's rattled off all these names. Most people do 1 or 2. Yeah. But it's totally up to you. And then we will invite them and send an invitation. So Jimmy nominated you. Yeah. And, it's helping the show grow because we're getting to meet and talk to so many great people.
Well,
and it's someone that that you appreciate.
Yeah.
That has a story to tell.
I'm a big fan of a couple people, and I'll tell you that one of my writers, Charlie Hodge, has been writing for me for 10 years. Mm-hmm. But he does a lot of fundraising. He has just been through hell and back.
Wow.
And he's got a really good, incredible outlook on life. He's fortunate to be here. Mm. Like, we almost lost him. But he's been a music supporter in this industry for as long as I can remember. And he has been brushed with death for the last few years. But he's always remained grateful as best as he can. He works for the city council here as well. And he does the best he can. He asks a lot of questions.
That's great.
Yeah, he is really, really a great guy. And as well as I got a friend who's always been a part of my fundraising that really deserves to be recognized, because she's always trying to help people, and that's Angie Clowry. And she's helped out with all of my events.
Wow.
Hands down.
Is she a promoter? Is that what she does? Or?
She has, yeah. She's put on a lot of fundraisers, helped out with a lot of events. The other is, I don't know if he would do it or if he could, but, of course, the mayor, Colin Bazaran's always been a supporter of mine over the years. He's always been, I don't know if he would do it though.
A few people have nominated him, and he told us that in the new year, once the election is over and stuff, he will come on the show. So that's great.
Yeah, I would.
And if he keeps getting nominated, I think he's going to have to.
Yeah.
I mean, not have to, but like he'll hopefully feel like compelled. And
I think it's important for him to do it too. Yeah. I mean, he's been a supporter of mine. I just texted him today, right, about some new events that I want to I've got some really great ideas, and
great.
And he shows up. That's the thing he
shows up, eh? He's a person that really gets along with a wide variety of people.
He does.
When I first heard about him and I first met him, he seems to me like a great collaborator.
He is, and he's certainly got a big job, and he's not a fan of everyone's.
Right.
But when I first met him, he was a TV reporter, and I liked him. I liked the way he presented himself. And then when I got to know him, when he talked about him running, I'm like, okay. And then him and I talk about our families a lot. He talks about his kids.
Yeah.
And he talks about his wife and family and the direction of Kelowna. And I think, I've got kids. And how is it going to be tomorrow? And the reason why I would is because I think that when he sits in that seat, he has his children in mind for the future. Mm-hmm. And you can't please everyone. And everyone is going to complain. Not everyone. People are going to complain if it's not something that they want to hear. Mm-hmm. But how he responds is what I really like about the guy.
Yeah.
Because he will say, well, the homeless issue is somebody will just random, so mad. And he will come up with stats of how the last 4 years has gone as far as homeless housing, and that we're developing more than we ever in the history of Kelowna, and we don't have enough people to fill them. Yeah. So it's not necessarily always about finding a home for these people, because there's a lot of broad issues to deal with.
Some people don't want to.
That's right.
Take that help.
And then there's, all the others. So he is, what I really like about the guy and why I would highly recommend to talk to him was because the way he holds himself, not only in the good, but the bad. Mm-hmm. He's not everyone's favorite person, but he shows up. Mm-hmm. He shows up. Yeah. And he tells me, straight out how things are, and how he can support and how he can encourage me to better not only myself, but my families and my events for tomorrow.
Right.
So that's what I really like about the guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good.
Well, Brad, thanks so much for your time. It's been great chatting with you, and I love hearing about history, especially Kelowna history. So it's been my home for 7 years, and I love it. I love living here.
Yeah.
My only regret is I didn't come here sooner. So
Yeah.
I love hearing stories about the old days and what it was like. And I'm a huge music fan. I played bass in high school, but I never joined a band or was in a traveling band. So, I really appreciate it.
We'll have to brush that off and you'll have to come out and jam.
Yeah, would love to. Would love to. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Cheers.
Luke Mankus is a realtor. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011. And he always says, yeah, one regret. And that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time. 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273 to chat with Luke about real estate.